It is, in fact, a Friday. First thing I got to tell you is I got all the books out. For those who don't know, I mentioned that if you want a copy of American Murder Houses, my publisher remaindered one edition of it, and I've got a pile of them. And if you want one, I'll send you one for $15. So you got to do is email me, steve@lehtoslaw.com. I will invoice you for $15. You pay the invoice. I get your address. I sign it to you. I mail it to you as long as you're in the U.S. And in case you're curious, I shipped out almost 600. 600. Took the last ones to the post office yesterday. I have a blood blister on my hand from holding a pen and signing my name. But I had a lot of fun, got a lot of great notes from people. In fact, people are already telling me that some of the books have arrived because I started shipping them last week. And I brought the first 100 to the post office, and the postmaster had an assistant that day who sat there and just hammered them out. And then next day I brought in 50, and there's a different person there. And the guy's like, dude, this is going to take a while. I said, what can I do to help you? And he goes, just go sit in your car. So I went out and sat in my car. And he came out and he goes, hey, we're done. But over the next few days, I bring by a truckload, and I worked with him. I said, what day, what time, when should I bring them by? And I finally got them all out. And I'm going to let you know a couple things. There are about 30 people who got invoices from me, looked at the invoice, and didn't pay it. That's fine. If you change your mind, that's fine. But I want to remind people, because I know that once in a while I'll get a note from somebody who says, Steve, did you invoice me? Did you not invoice me? So there's about 30 invoices out that are unpaid right now. I've also had a few people who told me that they sent me the email but never got the invoice. If you didn't get an invoice, send me an email and ask for a response. So I was only responding by sending the invoice previously. So now, if you didn't get an invoice and you did email me again and say, Steve, I've emailed you. Could you please confirm that you got this? And I'll kick a thing back that says, yes, watch for the invoice. I got no problem doing that. So I've had several people tell me that also. And there's one or two people who sent me bad addresses. And I know they didn't do it on purpose. It's probably just a typo. But when I go to the post office to have them mailed, they type the address in and they print a new label for it. And when they do that, I've had them say, Steve, this address is no good. And I check in the emails, and that's the address they gave me. And I've written back to two people saying, hey, I need help with your address. And they haven't responded yet. So right now there's a book waiting for you that I'll mail as soon as I get an answer back on the address. So double check that also. But if you ordered one, you should have it in the next few days, unless you're in Alaska or Hawaii, in which case it might take a little longer. But I mean, I was getting emails the next day from people who said, yeah, I got it, even though they're being sent media mail. And media mail used to take a lot longer. And apparently now it's just mixed into regular mail and it's just a better rate. So it's one of the best deals out there is media mail. So the books are out. I sold almost 600. I still do have some more left, like this one, which I keep holding up. So if you want one, let me know. I'll hook you up. I had one person order 6 copies and sign it to 6 people, each one to a different person. No problem. I can do that too. Although my envelopes only hold 2, so I got to send those 2 at a time. And then I did a video earlier today, which I think will probably air today or tomorrow, where I mentioned being pulled over by the police. I didn't get too heavily into it, but I mentioned that I used to work really, really crazy shifts in radio. So I'd do 6 to midnight or midnight to 6, and I'd be driving home either like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, or I'd be driving home like 6:30 in the morning. And for some odd reason, if you drive through a small town at 2 o'clock in the morning and there's a cop out, you're going to get pulled over. And I know some people don't believe that. I've said that to people before, and they're like, what? No, you must have been doing something wrong. I can literally name for you right now 5 or 10 occasions off the top of my head, and probably more if I sat down and worked it out, where I got pulled over for no reason. So there's a town called North Branch, Michigan, which is kind of between Bad Axe and Birmingham. One way. That's one of the ways you can go through. And I drove through North Branch, and so, let's see, I left Bad Axe around 12:05 because I shut the transmitters off at midnight. And I'm driving south, I'm guessing about, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I go through this little tiny town, I slow down, and I pass a cop car, and I watch, and sure enough, he spins around behind me, pulls over, and turns on the lights, and get out, light, he gets out, and he comes to my car, and I driver's license, registration, whole shooting match. And the guy just starts quizzing me about where am I going? What am I doing out that late at night? And I know people who say, Steve, I can't believe you. You should know better than that. Well, we're talking, I was 20 years old, 20, 21 years old, okay? And so back then, my whole thing was just be as polite as you can, and because they want to, they'll write you a ticket for something. And you just, hey, what you doing out at this time? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? And I remember another radio station I worked at. It was, again, a 6 to midnight or 7 to midnight thing I did. And I left the radio station. I made it about a mile. And I remember going through a railroad. The railroad bridge was over the road, driving through and seeing a cop car that was parked right here as people go through the bridge. And I looked over, and I wasn't speeding. Cop pulls me over. And I get this like half-hour interrogation. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? What are you doing at this hour of the night? And I actually had someplace to be. I was going to meet some people. And I said, I just left work at the radio station. Oh, what radio station do you work at? WTRX. Oh, they play oldies, right? Yeah, you want to make a request? Like what? Huh? Anyways, and so I can tell you, when I moved to Bad Axe, Michigan, I got pulled over by almost every single cop in town, and here's the tricky part. There were city cops, county cops, and state cops, because Bad Axe was the county seat. So the Michigan State Police had a post there, the county sheriff had his headquarters there, and the city cops were there also. So I get off work at midnight, drive into town on the days I wasn't racing to get out of there, and get pulled over. And it could be any one of those three. And I actually realized that as they walked up, I could say, I'm from the radio station. And they say, oh, have a nice night, and walk away. But the first couple times I got pulled over, I was baffled. So I pull out of the radio station, and I'm driving into town because the radio station was on the edge of town. Cop car pulls around, pulls me over. And the whole driver's license, registration, all that stuff. And I wasn't speeding. I know I wasn't speeding. And I go, why'd you pull me over? The guy goes, I didn't recognize the car. And I was told that more than once. I didn't recognize the car. Now, that's back when I had a 69 Dodge Charger. It was bright yellow with a black stripe. One of the most obvious cars that you ever saw. And I'm being kind calling it obvious. You could see the car a mile away. You could see it from space because it was so bright. It was bright yellow with a black stripe. So when you saw that car, oh, there's that car again. And so it turns out that every cop in town had to pull me over once to go, oh, I didn't recognize the car. You work at the radio station? Cool, you're good to go. I had one cop go, why didn't you tell me? You didn't ask? I didn't realize you pull everybody over once to get to know them. So, yeah, have I had any tickets in my life? Yes. Did I deserve those tickets? Some of them. Nothing crazy. I've never had an alcohol offense ticket. I've never had an accident ticket. Everything's been, 5, 10 over, that kind of thing. But the number of times I've been pulled over is ridiculous. And I've told the story before about where I was sitting in a car and a cop walked up and then later pulled the old thing about whose cocaine is that? Yeah, cocaine in my car. Along with all the beer, officer. So like I said, the number of times I've been pulled over in small towns. Right now I'm having flashbacks. I got pulled over once in Lapeer. And the cops actually asked if they could search my car. And I'm going to admit, I said, yes, go right ahead. You know why? There was nothing in my car, and I wanted to get home. It was late. And I knew they had nothing on me. And so I could have said, no, thank you. But this is back when, again, I was in my 20s. They would have claimed to have had a reason to pull me over and question me and search my car and all that. So I figured, go ahead and search my car. Nothing in my car. They let me go, no ticket. But again, it's just the number of times. So I know there are people out there. I've actually met people who said, I've never been pulled over. Yeah, you know something? You live a charmed life, okay? Some people have never done all kinds of things. But if you've been pulled over, you've gone through this. But I can tell you right now, there are guys in the audience and gals who are going to check in and say, Steve, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because I had to drive through this one small town, and I'd get pulled over because I was driving through at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, so if I worked a typical 9 to 5 job my entire life and drove nondescript cars and kept to myself, I could have gone my entire life not getting pulled over. But trust me, you're driving this very, very bright car, very, very unusual car. Cop knows I've never seen that car before. and you're driving through his town at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you two are the only two cars on the road, somehow you will come together and have a little powwow at the side of the road. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. So that was a situation with the police cars and all that stuff. Like I said, the last ticket I got was several years ago, quite a few years ago. And I got pulled over 2 or 3 years ago by the police officer because I'm just looking for people who are drinking. And he let me go immediately. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I saw you. I think you hit the fog line back there." No, I didn't. But what are you gonna do? So there you go. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye bye.